I was 16 when my father told me to leave during a thunderstorm, and I genuinely believed I wouldn't make it through the night. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That's where the story pivots, not where it starts. The actual beginning is quieter, less dramatic. The kind of thing you don't recognize as a beginning until you're looking back from a hospital bed 3 days later, trying to explain to a woman with a clipboard how you ended up there. My mother died when I was 7. Pancreatic cancer. 11 months from diagnosis to funeral. I remember the funeral in fragments, the smell of lilies, my sister Vanessa's hand gripping mine too tight, my father's face like carved stone. Vanessa was 10, already capable of sitting still through the service without fidgeting. I kept swinging my legs under the pew until someone behind us coughed pointedly. The house felt wrong after that. Too quiet in some rooms, too loud in others. My father moved through it like he was underwater, slow and distant. Vanessa started doing things Mom used to do, folding the laundry in specific ways, organizing the pantry, checking my homework. She was good at it. Better than I was at anything, really. Dad met Caroline 18 months later at a hospital fundraiser. She was a volunteer coordinator, warm and efficient, the kind of person who remembered everyone's name and asked follow-up questions about things you'd mentioned weeks ago. She had a laugh that filled rooms. Vanessa loved her immediately. I didn't dislike Caroline. That's important to say. She was kind to me in the beginning. She asked about school, complimented drawings I brought home, made my favorite foods on weekends. When she and Dad got married 2 years after Mom died, she wore a simple blue dress and cried during the vows. Vanessa was a junior bridesmaid. I carried a basket of flowers and only tripped once. The shift was gradual. That's the thing about these stories. People expect a villain to announce themselves. But Caroline didn't wake up one morning and decide to push me out.
It was smaller than that.
1,000 tiny recalibrations. Vanessa was in high school by then, getting straight A's, editing the school newspaper, planning her college applications with a kind of focus I couldn't imagine having. Caroline started spending more time helping her with essays, discussing AP courses, driving her to campus visits. Which made sense. Vanessa was older. She had more immediate needs. I was 12, still playing with the neighbor's dog after school, still getting B's and C's despite trying, still forgetting to put my dishes in the dishwasher. Caroline started reminding me about the dishes, then about my shoes by the door, then about closing the shower curtain all the way. The reminders had an edge to them, a tightness in her voice that hadn't been there before. "Your sister never had to be told twice," she said once, not looking at me, folding towels with sharp, precise movements. Dad was working longer hours. He'd taken on a management position at the firm, which meant better money and worse schedules. Some nights, he'd come home after I was already in bed. When he was home, he was tired. Caroline managed the house. She was good at it. Everything ran smoothly under her watch. Vanessa and I used to share things. Music, books, stupid jokes. But high school consumed her, and when she was home, she was with Caroline. They'd sit at the kitchen table for hours, talking about teachers and deadlines and college rankings. I'd hover nearby sometimes, waiting for a gap in the conversation to join, but the gaps never came at the right moment. Or I'd say something and they'd both look at me with the same polite patience, and Vanessa would say, "We're kind of in the middle of something." And I'd nod and leave. It's hard to explain what it feels like to become optional in your own family. It's not dramatic. No one sits you down and tells you you're less important now. You just stop being included in decisions. Stop being asked for your opinion. Your favorite foods stop appearing at dinner. Your schedule becomes an afterthought. I started spending more time in my room. It felt safer there. I could control that space. I put up posters, organized my books the way I wanted, kept everything exactly how I liked it. Caroline started commenting on the mess. There wasn't a mess, not really. Some books on the floor, a few clothes on the chair. Normal teenage disorder. But she'd stand in the doorway with her arms crossed, sighing. "I don't understand why you can't keep this room clean. Vanessa's room is always immaculate. I'd clean it." She'd find something else. The summer I turned 13, Caroline suggested family therapy. Not for everyone, just for me. She told Dad I was struggling with anger issues and acting out. Dad looked concerned and asked if I wanted to talk about anything. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't angry. I was just there, existing in the spaces they left for me, which were getting smaller. We went to 3 sessions. The therapist, Dr. Whitman, was kind. She asked me about school, about friends, about how I felt about my mom. I answered honestly. I missed Mom. School was fine. I had a few friends, not a lot, but enough. Dr. Whitman didn't seem to think anything was particularly wrong, but she gave me some worksheets about identifying emotions and suggested we do family sessions. Caroline said family sessions wouldn't work with Dad's schedule. We stopped going. 8th grade was when I started noticing the lying. Small things at first. Caroline would tell Dad I'd forgotten to do a chore I'd definitely done. Or she'd mention I'd been mouthy during a conversation I barely remembered having. Dad would look disappointed and remind me to be more respectful. I'd try to defend myself, but it always came out wrong. Whiny, defensive, exactly the kind of reaction that proved her point. Vanessa never defended me. I don't think she even noticed. She was in her senior year, drowning in college applications and AP exams. When she was home, she was stressed. Caroline would make her tea and rub her shoulders and tell her everything would work out fine, which it did. Vanessa got into her top choice, a prestigious liberal arts college on the East Coast. Everyone cried at dinner when she opened the acceptance letter. Caroline hugged her for a long time. Dad made a toast. I said congratulations. Vanessa smiled at me, but it was distant, like I was someone she used to know. After Vanessa left for college, the house felt bigger and emptier.
It was just me and Dad and Caroline now.
Dad was working even more, something about a major project that needed his oversight. Caroline started enforcing rules I'd never heard before. Dinner at 6 sharp. No TV on weeknights. Homework finished before any free time. Chores on a schedule she'd written out and posted on the fridge. I followed the rules. I tried. But there was always something I'd missed or done wrong. The vacuum lines in the carpet weren't straight enough. I'd loaded the dishwasher inefficiently. I'd used the wrong cleaning product on the bathroom counter. I don't know why you make everything so difficult, she'd say, redoing whatever I'd just done, her movements angry and precise. Dad asked me once if everything was okay. We were in the car, just the two of us, driving back from a dentist appointment. It was the first time we'd been alone in weeks. I wanted to tell him. I opened my mouth to try. But what would I even say? That Caroline was mean to me? It sounded childish.
She wasn't hitting me.
She wasn't screaming. She was just there. Constant. Correcting. Disappointed. Everything's fine, I said. He nodded, looking relieved, and turned up the radio. I started staying late at school. I joined the art club, even though I wasn't particularly good at art. It gave me a reason to not be home. Mrs. Chun, who ran the club, was patient and encouraging. She never seemed disappointed in anything I made. I started spending more time there, working on projects that didn't matter just to have somewhere to be. Caroline noticed. She told Dad I was avoiding family time and being difficult about helping around the house. She suggested I needed to be home more, to contribute more, to be more responsible. Dad agreed. I had to quit art club. Mrs. Chun seemed confused when I told her. Is everything all right at home? She asked. Yeah, I said. Just busy. If you're still here, you probably recognize this kind of silence. The kind where you know something's wrong but you can't name it, can't prove it, can't make anyone else see it. Freshman year of high school. Things escalated. Vanessa came home for Thanksgiving, and she was different. More polished, more confident, full of stories about her classes and her roommate and parties and internships. She and Caroline talked for hours. Dad beamed at her over dinner, asking question after question. I sat there, pushing food around my plate, waiting for someone to ask me something. No one did. After Vanessa left, Caroline started making comments about college. How I need to really apply myself if I wanted to get in anywhere decent. How Vanessa had worked so hard and looked how well it had paid off. How I needed to start thinking about my future seriously. I was 14. I was getting mostly B's, a few A's in classes I liked. It wasn't brilliant, but it wasn't terrible either. But Caroline made it sound like I was failing, like I was wasting everyone's time. She started checking my homework every night. Not helping, checking. Looking for mistakes, pointing them out, sighing when she found them. I started making more mistakes because I was so anxious about her finding them. It became a cycle I couldn't break. Dad asked me once why my grades were slipping. They weren't slipping, not really, but Caroline had convinced him they were. I tried to explain. He looked confused. Caroline says you're not trying. Is that true? No, I said. I'm trying. Well, try harder, he said, and went back to his laptop. Winter of freshman year, I got sick. Just a cold, nothing serious, but I stayed home from school for 2 days. Caroline barely checked on me. She brought me soup once, set it on my nightstand without a word, and left. I could hear her on the phone with Vanessa later, laughing about something, her voice warm and animated. I lay in bed listening, feeling the fever make everything slightly unreal, and wondered when exactly I'd become invisible. When I went back to school, there was a rumor going around that I'd faked being sick. I never found out who started it, but I had suspicions. Caroline had mentioned to someone at the school, maybe the office, maybe a teacher, that I'd been dramatic about minor illnesses before. It wasn't true, but the rumor stuck for weeks. Spring semester, something happened with money. Dad's wallet went missing. He found it eventually, tucked behind some books in the living room, missing $60. Caroline suggested I might have taken it. Not directly, she didn't accuse me to my face. But she mentioned to Dad, in a voice I could hear from the next room, that I'd been acting strange lately and maybe we should check a room. They checked my room. They didn't find anything, because I hadn't taken anything. Dad apologized, but it was brief, distracted. Caroline didn't apologize at all. But the seed was planted. I could see it in how Dad looked at me now, a little wary, a little suspicious. Things I said started getting twisted. I'd make a comment at dinner, something neutral, just contributing to conversation, and Caroline would interpret it as rude or challenging. Dad would tell me to watch my tone. I'd say I didn't have a tone. He'd say I was being defensive. There was no winning. I stopped talking much at dinner. Vanessa came home for summer break. She had an internship lined up, something impressive at a nonprofit in the city. Caroline drove her to and from the office every day, 40 minutes each way, never complaining. They'd come home talking about Vanessa's projects, her coworkers, her future. I'd be in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner, my assigned chore, listening to them laugh together in the next room. One night, I snapped. I didn't mean to. I was just so tired. So tired of being the problem, the disappointment, the one who couldn't do anything right. Caroline made some comment about how I'd loaded the dishwasher wrong again, and I said, maybe you should just do it yourself then. The room went silent. Dad looked up from his phone. Vanessa stopped mid-sentence. Caroline's face went hard. Excuse me, she said, her voice very quiet. Nothing, I said. Sorry. No, you clearly have something to say. Say it. I didn't have anything to say. Not anything that would help. But everyone was looking at me now, waiting. I'm trying, okay? I'm trying my best. Your best. Caroline laughed, but it wasn't amused. Your best is talking back and making excuses? I wasn't. This is exactly what I'm talking about, she said, turning to Dad. This attitude. This constant defiance. I'm not being defiant, Don't interrupt me. Dad was watching, his expression unreadable. Vanessa looked uncomfortable, but said nothing. You know what? Caroline said, standing up. I have done nothing but try to help you. I have tried to be patient. I have tried to be understanding. But you make it impossible. You take everything I do and throw it back in my face. That's not. Go to your room, Dad said. I looked at him. Really looked at him. Waiting for him to see that this wasn't fair, that I hadn't done anything wrong, that I was just tired and overwhelmed and needed someone to acknowledge that. He didn't see it. Now, he said. I went to my room. I lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the murmur of their voices downstairs. I couldn't make out words, but the tone was clear. They were talking about me.
agreeing about me, deciding things about me. That was the night I realized I was on my own.
The rest of summer passed in a kind of fog. I moved through the house like a ghost, trying to take up as little space as possible. I perfected the art of being unnoticeable. I learned which floorboards creaked, which rooms to avoid at which times, how to make myself disappear into the background of my own life. Vanessa went back to school in August. She hugged me goodbye, but it was performative, the kind of hug you give someone because other people are watching. Caroline cried. Dad helped load her car. I stood on the porch and waved until they were out of sight. Sophomore year started. I kept my head down, did my work, stayed out of the way. I made one friend that year, Maya, who was quiet like me, who also seemed to be carrying something heavy she couldn't name. We ate lunch together, studied together sometimes, didn't ask each other too many questions. It was enough. Caroline didn't like Maya. She never said so directly, but I could tell. When Maya came over once to work on a project, Caroline was coldly polite, answering Maya's friendly questions with clipped responses. After Maya left, Caroline mentioned that she seemed troubled and maybe I should be careful about who I spend time with. I stopped inviting Maya over. October of that year, something happened with Vanessa. I never got the full story, but it involved a professor and some kind of academic dispute. Vanessa called home crying, and Caroline spent 2 hours on the phone with her, then another hour on the phone with someone at the college. Dad came home early from work. They had a family meeting, the three of them in the living room, door closed. I could hear Caroline's voice, calm and strategic, talking about rights and policies and procedures. Whatever it was got resolved. Vanessa was fine. But something shifted after that. Caroline became more protective, more vigilant. And somehow, in a way I still don't fully understand, that vigilance turned toward me. As if I were a problem that needed the same kind of managing. She started going through my things. I'd come home from school and know immediately that someone had been in my room. Drawers slightly open, books rearranged, my laptop moved from where I'd left it. When I asked about it, Caroline said she was just cleaning, and I was being paranoid. I put a piece of tape on my laptop, positioned just so. The next day it was broken. I started keeping a journal, hiding it under my mattress. I wrote down what was happening, not dramatically, just factually. The things Caroline said, the things Dad didn't notice, the way I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. Writing it down made it real, made it something I could point to later if I needed to prove I wasn't imagining things. 3 weeks later, the journal was gone. I tore my room apart looking for it. Checked every possible hiding place, every corner and crevice. Nothing. When I asked Caroline if she'd seen it, she looked at me with this expression. Not quite a smile, but close. A journal? No, I haven't seen any journal. Are you sure you had one? Yes, I'm sure. Well, maybe you misplaced it. You do tend to be a bit disorganized. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab her and shake her and make her admit what she'd done. But I just stood there, hands clenched to my sides, trying to breathe normally. Is there something in this journal I should be concerned about? She asked, tilting her head slightly. No, I said. Good. Because if you were writing things, untrue things, about people, that would be a problem. Do you understand? I understood perfectly. That night at dinner, Caroline mentioned to Dad that I'd been acting strangely again. Paranoid, she said. Accusing people of going through her things. I'm worried about her mental state. Dad looked at me with that expression I'd come to dread, concern mixed with disappointment, like I was a puzzle he was tired of trying to solve. Are you feeling okay? He asked. I'm fine, I said. Because if you need to talk to someone, I said I'm fine. The sharpness in my voice surprised even me. Dad's eyes narrowed. Don't use that tone with me. Sorry, I said automatically. But I wasn't sorry. I was angry. Furious, actually. At him, at Caroline, at Vanessa, at myself for not being able to make anyone understand what was happening. The anger sat in my chest like a stone, heavy and hot, and I didn't know what to do with it. I started looking forward to the end. Not in a dramatic way. I wasn't thinking about hurting myself or anything like that. I just meant graduation. 2.5 more years and I could leave. I could go to college somewhere far away and never come back. I held on to that thought like a lifeline. But 2.5 years is a long time when every day feels like survival. Winter came. The holidays were tense. Vanessa came home for 3 weeks, and the house transformed. Caroline cooked elaborate meals, played Christmas music, decorated every surface. She and Vanessa went shopping together, got their nails done, watched movies late into the night. Dad took time off work. They were a family again. I was invited to participate, technically. But every time I tried, I felt like an intruder. They had their rhythms, their inside jokes, their shared language. I didn't speak it anymore. On Christmas morning, we opened presents. Vanessa got a new laptop, expensive headphones, a wool coat she'd been wanting. I got practical things, school supplies, basic clothes, a gift card to a bookstore. The disparity was obvious, but no one acknowledged it. Dad seemed genuinely pleased with what he'd gotten me. Like, he thought a $20 gift card was equivalent to a $1,000 laptop. I smiled and said thank you. That afternoon, Caroline pulled me aside in the kitchen. We were alone for the first time in days. "I want you to know something," she said, her voice low. "I see what you're doing." "What am I doing?" "Playing the victim. Acting like you're being excluded. But you exclude yourself. You always have." I didn't respond. "Your father works so hard to provide for this family, and all you do is make things difficult. Vanessa appreciates what she has. She's grateful. She doesn't walk around with this." She gestured vaguely at me. "This attitude." "I don't have an attitude."
See?
That right there. That's what I'm talking about. She walked away before I could respond. That night, lying in bed, I made a decision. I would be perfect. Absolutely perfect. I would do everything right, give Caroline nothing to criticize, become invisible in my compliance. If I could just make it through the next 2 years without conflict, I could leave and never look back. It was a good plan. A solid plan. It lasted 3 months. In March, something happened that I still don't fully understand. Someone I never found out who told the school counselor that I'd made concerning comments about self-harm. I hadn't. I'd never said anything like that to anyone. But suddenly I was being pulled out of class, sitting in an office with Mrs. Patterson asking if I was safe at home, if I had thoughts of hurting myself, if I needed help. I told her I was fine. I was genuinely confused about where this had come from. She seemed skeptical, but eventually let me go back to class. But she called my parents. That night, Dad and Caroline sat me down for a serious conversation. Caroline looked grave and concerned. Dad looked scared. "The school called," Dad said. "They're worried about you." "I don't know why," I said. I didn't say anything. "So, you're saying the counselor is lying?" Caroline asked. "No, I'm saying someone else is lying. I never said anything about hurting myself. But someone told him you did." "Then someone made it up." Caroline and Dad exchanged a look. The kind of look that meant they'd already decided what they believed, and nothing I said would change it. "We think," Dad said carefully, "that maybe you should see someone. A therapist. Regularly." "I don't need a therapist." "That's not really your decision to make." And just like that, it was decided. I was back in therapy, this time with Dr. Morrison, a woman who specialized in adolescent depression and anxiety. She was nice enough, but the whole thing felt like a trap. Everything I said could be used as evidence that something was wrong with me. If I was upset, that proved I needed help. If I wasn't upset, that proved I was in denial. I learned to say what they wanted to hear. "I'm feeling better. School is going well. Things at home are fine." Dr. Morrison seemed pleased with my progress. Caroline seemed vindicated that she'd been right to be concerned. And somewhere in all of this, I stopped believing my own thoughts. Because maybe I was the problem. Maybe I was difficult and ungrateful and paranoid. Maybe Caroline was right, and I'd been seeing things that weren't there, creating conflict where none existed. Maybe I was exactly who they said I was. That thought was more terrifying than anything else. The school year ended. Summer arrived. Vanessa came home with a new boyfriend, someone she'd met at an internship. His name was Derek, and he was polite and ambitious, and exactly the kind of person Caroline would approve of. They stayed for 2 weeks, sleeping in the guest room, joining us for dinners where everyone laughed at Derek's jokes and asked about his plans. I mostly stayed in my room. On the last night before they left, there was a family dinner. Caroline made Vanessa's favorite meal. Dad opened wine. Everyone was relaxed and happy. I sat at the table, pushing food around my plate, feeling like I was watching them through glass. Vanessa looked at me at one point, really looked at me, and for a second I thought she saw it. Saw what was happening, saw how far I'd drifted from them, saw that I was drowning right there at the dinner table. But then Derek said something, and she turned away, laughing, and the moment was gone. They left the next morning. I didn't bother coming out to say goodbye. Junior year started in September, and I was barely holding on. The first week of junior year, I got called to the vice principal's office. Mr. Hendricks was sitting behind his desk with a printout in front of him, and he looked uncomfortable. "Have a seat," he said.
Iset.
"I need to ask you about something, and I want you to be honest with me. Have you been accessing inappropriate websites on school computers?" My stomach dropped.
No.
"Because we have records showing that someone logged in with your credentials and visited several sites that violate our acceptable use policy." "That wasn't me. The login was yours." "Then someone used my login. I don't even know my password half the time. I have to reset it constantly." He looked at me for a long moment. "Your stepmother called yesterday. She mentioned you've been having some issues at home. Behavioral problems." Of course she had. "I haven't been having behavioral problems." She seemed very concerned. "She mentioned therapy, some incidents at school last year." I didn't say anything. There was nothing to say that wouldn't make it worse. "Look," Mr. Hendricks said, softening slightly. "I'm not trying to get you in trouble. But if something's going on, if you need help, there are resources."
Fine.
The websites weren't me.
He sighed.
"I'm going to let this go with a warning. But you need to be more careful with your login information. And if you need to talk to someone, Mrs. Patterson is still available." I nodded and left. That afternoon, I checked my school account. Someone had changed my password. I reset it, choosing something random and complicated, something no one would guess. I didn't know who'd access my account, but I had suspicions. Caroline had all my login information. She'd insisted on it when I started high school, said it was for safety reasons. I didn't mention the incident at home. What would be the point? Caroline would just express concern, suggest I was being irresponsible with my passwords, maybe hint that I was lying about not accessing those sites. Dad would believe her. The pattern was established. Maya noticed something was wrong. We were in the library after school, supposedly studying, but I couldn't focus. "You okay?" she asked quietly.
Yeah.
"You sure?" I looked at her. Maya, who never pushed, never pried, who understood that sometimes you needed space more than you needed questions answered. "Family stuff," I said. She nodded. "That's the worst kind of stuff."
Yeah.
We sat in silence for a while. Then Maya said, "My aunt says sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones you need protection from." I didn't respond, but something in my chest loosened slightly. Just knowing that someone else understood, even abstractly, even without details, made the weight feel less impossible. October came. Vanessa called home less frequently now, busy with her senior year and job applications and thesis research. When she did call, she talked to Caroline mostly, sometimes to Dad. Rarely to me. Once, Caroline handed me the phone and said Vanessa wanted to say hi. We talked for maybe 3 minutes, awkward and stilted, like strangers making small talk at a bus stop. "How's school?" she asked.
Fine.
"How's yours?"
Busy.
"Really busy. I'm applying to grad programs." "That's good."
Yeah.
"Anyway, I should go. Good talking to you." "You too." Caroline took the phone back, and I heard her voice transform, warm, engaged, maternal. I went back to my room. The thing about isolation is that it happens so gradually you don't notice until you're completely alone. I had Maya, but Maya had her own problems, her own family situation that she didn't talk about, but that I could see in the way she flinched at loud noises and always kept her phone on silent. We were friends in the way that drowning people are friends, clinging to each other, but too focused on survival to really help. I had stopped trying to connect with my family, stopped trying to prove myself, stopped hoping that Dad would suddenly see what was happening, that Vanessa would come home and recognize how much had changed, that Caroline would just stop. Hope was exhausting, and I was so tired. I focused on school. Not because I cared particularly about grades anymore, but because it gave me somewhere to be, something to do that wasn't navigating the minefield of home. I was pulling B's and C's, occasionally an A in English, where Mrs. Harper seemed to actually like my essays. It wasn't impressive, but it was enough. Caroline didn't think it was enough. She started comparing me to Vanessa, more explicitly now, not even trying to hide it. Vanessa had a 3.8 at your age. She was taking AP classes. I'm not Vanessa. Clearly. These conversations happened at dinner, with Dad sitting right there. He'd sometimes interject with something about everyone having different strengths, but it was half-hearted. He agreed with Caroline fundamentally. I could see it in his face. Disappointment had become his default expression when he looked at me. November brought parent-teacher conferences. I wasn't particularly worried. My grades were acceptable. My teachers generally liked me. I'd never caused any problems. But Caroline came home from the conferences with a tight, angry expression. We need to talk, she said. Dad was working late. It was just the two of us. Your English teacher says you wrote an essay about family dynamics that was concerning. I remembered the essay. We'd been assigned to write about conflict, and I'd written about a fictional family where the youngest child felt invisible. It wasn't explicitly about my life, but it was drawn from it. Mrs. Harper had given me an A and written "powerful" at the top. It was fiction, I said. Was it? Yes. Mrs. Harper seems to think you might be processing something. She asked if everything was all right at home. My heart was racing. What did you tell her? I told her that we're concerned about you too, that you've been struggling, that we're doing everything we can to support you, but you're resistant to help. That's not. I also spoke to your other teachers. Do you know what they said? They said you're withdrawn, isolated, that you don't participate in class, don't engage with other students. Mr. Chen said you seem sad. I'm not sad. I'm just quiet. There's a difference between quiet and depressed. I'm not depressed. That's not what your therapist thinks. Dr. Morrison said I'm doing better. She said you're saying the right things. That's not the same as being better. She's concerned you're not being honest with her. This was a trap. Everything was a trap. If I defended myself, I was being defensive. If I stayed quiet, I was being evasive. There was no right answer. I want you to see a psychiatrist, Caroline said. Dr. Morrison recommended someone. Dr. Reese. She can evaluate whether medication might help. I don't need medication. Again, not your decision. Where's Dad? Does he know about this? Your father trusts my judgment. He knows I have your best interests at heart. She said it with such conviction that I almost believed her. Almost. The appointment with Dr. Reese was scheduled for the following week. I sat in another beige office, answering another set of questions designed to quantify my mental state. How often do you feel sad? Do you have trouble sleeping? Have you lost interest in activities you used to enjoy? Do you have thoughts of harming yourself? I answered honestly, which was my first mistake. Yes, I felt sad sometimes. Yes, I had trouble sleeping. Yes, I'd lost interest in things, not because of depression, but because I'd learned that caring about things gave people leverage to hurt you. No, I didn't want to harm myself. Dr. Reese prescribed a low dose of an antidepressant. She said it would help with my mood, help me engage more, help me feel like myself again. I wanted to tell her I didn't remember what myself felt like anymore, but I just nodded and took the prescription. Caroline filled it that same day. She supervised me taking the first pill, watching to make sure I swallowed it. This is going to help you, she said. You'll see. The medication made me foggy. Not dramatically. I could still function, still go to school, still do my work. But everything felt slightly muffled, like I was living underwater. My emotions were dampened, which I suppose was the point. I stopped feeling as angry, as frustrated, as desperate. I also stopped feeling much of anything else. Maya noticed. You seem different, she said one day at lunch. They put me on medication. Do you think you need it? I didn't know how to answer that. Did I need it? Or did Caroline need me to be on it, to have pharmaceutical evidence that something was wrong with me, that she'd been right all along? I don't know, I said finally. December arrived. Vanessa came home for winter break, and the house transformed again into its performance of family harmony. Caroline cooked and decorated. Dad took time off. Vanessa brought Derek again, and they announced their engagement over dinner. Everyone cried happy tears. Dad opened champagne. Caroline started talking immediately about wedding plans, venues, dates. Vanessa was glowing, holding out her hand to show off the ring, talking about how Derek had proposed at sunset on a beach. I said congratulations. I meant it, mostly. I wanted Vanessa to be happy. But I also felt nothing watching the scene unfold, and I couldn't tell if that was the medication or just the natural progression of becoming completely disconnected from these people. Later that night, Vanessa came to my room. It was the first time she'd sought me out in years. Hey, she said, hovering in the doorway.
Hey.
Congratulations again. Thanks. She stepped inside, looking around. Your room looks different. I took down most of the posters. Why? Because Caroline complained about them. Because I got tired of defending the small things that made this space mine. Because it was easier to have nothing than to constantly fight for something. Just felt like a change, I said. Vanessa sat on the edge of my bed. I feel like we don't talk anymore. We don't.
I'm sorry about that.
College is just, it's a lot, you know? And now with the engagement and everything, it's fine. Is it? She looked at me with something that might have been genuine concern. Caroline says you've been having a hard time. Of course Caroline had talked to her.
I've seen it.
You're on medication now, right? Is it helping?
Yeah. Good.
That's good. She paused. I know it's hard sometimes. Being the youngest. Feeling like you're always being compared. But you know we all love you, right? The words sounded rehearsed. Like something Caroline had coached her to say. Sure, I said. I mean it. And if you ever need to talk, I'm here. I know I'm far away, but you can always call. Okay. She hugged me before she left. It felt like hugging a stranger. The rest of break passed in a blur. Vanessa and Derek left 2 days after Christmas. Dad went back to work. Caroline went back to her routines. And I went back to the fog. School resumed in January. Junior year, second semester. 6 months until summer, then 1 more year until graduation. I counted down days like a prisoner marking time. Maya stopped coming to school in February. No warning, no explanation. She was just gone. I texted her, called her, got no response. After a week, I asked Mrs. Patterson if she knew anything. Maya's dealing with some family issues, she said carefully. She'll be back when she can. But she didn't come back. Not that month, not the next. I heard through someone else that she'd moved to live with her aunt in another state. No goodbye, no forwarding address. Just gone. I was alone now. Completely. March came. I turned 17 without ceremony. Caroline made a cake, because that's what you do for birthdays, what looks normal from the outside. Dad gave me a card with $50 in it. Vanessa sent a text. I blew out the candles and wished for nothing, because wishing felt pointless. That night, something broke in the bathroom. The towel rack pulled out of the wall when I grabbed it getting out of the shower. It was an accident. The thing was old, poorly installed, had been loose for months. But when Caroline saw it, she looked at the damage and then at me, and her expression shifted into something cold and calculated. Did you do this on purpose? She asked.
What? No.
It just came off. It just came off. Yes. You didn't pull it. You didn't get angry and yank it out of the wall.
No.
Why would I? Your father is going to hear about this. She walked away before I could defend myself further. Dad came home. They talked in their bedroom for a long time. Then he came to my room. Caroline says you destroyed the bathroom. I didn't destroy anything. The towel rack broke. She says you've been increasingly destructive. That you're getting worse despite the medication. That's not true. So she's lying? Yes. The word hung in the air between us. I'd said it before, implied it countless times, but never that directly. Never with that much certainty. Dad's face hardened. I don't appreciate you talking about Caroline that way. I don't appreciate her lying about me. Go to your room. I'm in my room. Then stay there. He left. I heard them talking again, voices low and intense. I couldn't make out words, but the tone was clear. They were discussing me, deciding things about me, and I had no voice in it. The next morning, Caroline was cold and silent. Dad left for work early. I went to school and functioned on autopilot, sat in classes, took notes, ate lunch alone, came home. This became the pattern. Days blurred together. Spring arrived without me noticing. April came.
May.
The school year was ending, but I felt no relief. Just the knowledge that summer meant more time at home, more time navigating Caroline's moods and Dad's willful blindness. Vanessa called in early June. She wanted to come home for a weekend to discuss wedding plans with Caroline. Dad said that would be wonderful. They'd make it a family weekend, maybe go out to dinner, have quality time together. Vanessa arrived on a Friday afternoon. She looked polished and adult and completely foreign to me. She hugged everyone, chatted about the drive, showed us pictures on her phone of venue options. Caroline was in her element, discussing color schemes and flower arrangements and seating charts. Saturday, they spent the entire day together. Just the two of them, going to bridal shops and bakeries and meeting with a potential photographer. Dad was golfing with colleagues. I stayed home, cleaned my room even though it was already clean, tried to stay out of whatever space they'd need when they returned. They came home energized and happy. Caroline had bought champagne. They wanted to celebrate. Vanessa had found her dress. Dad came home from golfing in a good mood. It was perfect. The family Caroline had always wanted, with me carefully cropped out of the frame. Dinner that night was at an expensive restaurant downtown. We sat in a booth, Vanessa and Caroline on one side, Dad and me on the other. They talked across me, around me, sometimes through me when they needed something passed. I was a body taking up space, nothing more. At one point, the waiter asked if we were celebrating anything special. My daughter's getting married, Caroline said, beaming at Vanessa. Vanessa smiled. Dad raised his glass. No one corrected Caroline's phrasing, my daughter, singular. No one acknowledged I was sitting right there. It was such a small thing, grammatically ambiguous, possibly unintentional. But it crystallized everything. I excused myself to the bathroom and stood in the stall for 10 minutes, breathing carefully, reminding myself that I just had to make it through one more year. One more year, and I could leave. One more year, and none of this would matter. When I came back to the table, they hadn't noticed I'd been gone. Sunday, Vanessa left. She hugged Caroline for a long time, hugged Dad, gave me a quick squeeze, and drove away. Caroline stood in the driveway waving until the car disappeared. Then she turned to me, and the warmth drained from her face like water. We need to talk, she said. We went inside. Dad was in his study. Caroline closed the living room door. I found something in your room, she said. My heart stopped. What? This. She pulled out her phone and showed me a picture. It was a sketch I'd done months ago, a rough charcoal drawing of a woman with a cold expression. It wasn't anyone specific, just a figure study from an art tutorial I'd found online. But Caroline was showing it to me like it was evidence of something. It's just a drawing, I said. Is it supposed to be me? No. It's not anyone. It's just practice. It looks like me. It's not you. I also found these. She swiped to another photo. Pages from a notebook, notes I'd been taking in English class about a book we'd read. Lord of the Flies. My notes discuss themes of scapegoating and mob mentality and how civilized people become cruel when given the right circumstances. These are class notes, I said. They're disturbing. You're clearly thinking about violence. It's a book about kids stranded on an island. We were analyzing themes. I've also been monitoring your internet history. Of course she had. You've been researching emancipation, looking up legal rights of minors. reading about abuse and neglect.
I had been.
Quietly, carefully, trying to understand if what was happening to me had a name, if there was any way out before I turned 18. I was just curious, I said. You were plotting, planning to make accusations against us, against your father and me. That's not. Do you have any idea how much we've done for you? How much your father has sacrificed? How much I've tried to help you, to support you, to be patient with your issues? What issues? I don't have issues. You made them up. There it is. That attitude. That refusal to take any responsibility for your behavior. What behavior? I haven't done anything. You've done plenty. You've been destructive. You've been dishonest. You've been manipulative. You've tried to turn your father against me, tried to play the victim, tried to make yourself the center of attention. That's not true. None of that is true. Your father agrees with me. We've discussed this extensively. The door opened. Dad stood there, his face carefully neutral. Discussed what? I asked him directly. He looked at Caroline, then at me. Caroline's been expressing some concerns. About whether this living situation is working, whether you're benefiting from being here, or whether everyone might be better off with some space. My blood went cold. What does that mean? We think, Caroline said, her voice measured and calm, that you might do better in a different environment. A therapeutic boarding school, perhaps. Somewhere with structure and professional support. You want to send me away. We want to help you, Dad said, but his voice was weak, uncertain. By sending me away. By giving you the support you clearly need and aren't getting here. I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd read me bedtime stories, who'd held me when Mom died. This stranger standing in front of me, agreeing to erase me because it was easier than seeing the truth. I don't need support. I need you to listen to me. Just once. Please. We've been listening, Caroline said. We've tried everything. Therapy, medication, patience, understanding. Nothing works because you don't want it to work. You want to be difficult. You want to be the victim. That's not enough, Dad said. We're not making any immediate decisions, but we're going to start looking at options. In the meantime, you need to make more of an effort. Do you understand? I understood that I was cornered. I understood that anything I said would be used against me. I understood that they'd already decided who I was, and nothing I did would change that. Yes, I said. Good. Dad left the room, back to his study, back to pretending everything was under control. Caroline stayed for a moment longer. You brought this on yourself, she said quietly. Remember that. Then she left too, and I stood in the living room alone, my hands shaking, my mind racing through possibilities and finding nothing. No escape route. No way out. Just one more year stretching ahead of me like an eternity, and now the very real threat that I might not even make it that long. That night, I barely slept. I lay in bed replaying the conversation, trying to figure out where I'd gone wrong, what I should have said differently, how I could have made them understand. But there was no right answer. The game was rigged from the start. The next few weeks were tense. Caroline watched me constantly.
Dad avoided me.
I moved through the house like I was walking on ice, testing each step before committing weight to it. I stopped taking the medication.
Not dramatically, not as a statement.
I just quietly stopped. I felt clearer without it, more alert. I needed to be alert now. I needed to see what was coming. School ended. Summer arrived. No plans, no trips, no camps. Just me and them. Trapped in the same house, the pressure building daily. And then July happened and everything fell apart. It started with something small. It always does. July 3rd, a Tuesday. I was doing dishes after dinner, one of my assigned chores. Caroline was wiping down the counters. Dad was in the living room watching the news. Normal.
Routine.
The kind of evening that had happened 100 times before. Caroline's phone was on the counter, face up. It buzzed with a text message. I wasn't trying to read it. I was just standing there, hands in soapy water, but the preview was right there. Can't wait to see you Friday. Hotel at 7. The contact name was just initials.
DM.
I looked away immediately. Tried to unsee it. But Caroline had noticed me notice. Her hand shot out and grabbed the phone, her face going hard. Were you reading my messages?
No.
The notification popped up. I wasn't trying to. You were spying on me. I wasn't. I was literally just standing here. She stared at me for a long moment, something calculating in her expression. Then she walked out of the kitchen. I heard her talking to Dad in the other room, voice low and urgent. My stomach tightened. I dried my hands, put away the last few dishes, tried to breathe normally. Dad called my name. I went to the living room. They were both standing, Dad looking confused and Caroline looking righteous. Caroline says you were going through her phone, Dad said. I wasn't. A text came in while I was standing there. I saw the notification by accident. What did it say? Caroline asked. I don't know. I didn't read it. You just said you saw it. I saw that there was a text. I didn't read the content. So you did see it. This was the trap. Admit I saw something, I was spying. Deny it completely, I was lying. There was no answer that wouldn't incriminate me. I saw a notification pop up. That's all. Caroline turned to Dad. She's been invasive like this for weeks. Going through my things, trying to find things to use against me. I haven't been going through your things. Just like you haven't been researching how to accuse us of abuse. Just like you haven't been planning to make false claims. Dad looked at me. Is that true? I looked up some legal stuff online. That's not. Why would you need to look up legal stuff unless you were planning something? I was just trying to understand. Understand what? Everything. My rights. Whether what was happening to me was normal. Whether I was crazy, or if they were gaslighting me. Whether I had any options at all. Nothing, I said. I was just curious. You're lying, Caroline said. You've been lying this whole time. About everything. And now you're trying to invade my privacy, probably looking for ammunition for whatever story you're planning to tell. I'm not. Enough, Dad said. He looked tired. So tired. Just go to your room. We'll talk about this later. I went. I sat on my bed and tried to slow my heartbeat. It was fine. It would blow over. It was just another fight, another misunderstanding that would fade into the background noise of our dysfunctional household. But it didn't blow over. The next morning, Caroline was cold and silent. Dad left for work without speaking to me. I spent the day in my room, reading, trying to stay invisible. That evening, Dad came home early. He and Caroline went straight to their bedroom and talked for over an hour. I could hear the murmur of voices, but not the words. When they came out, they called me downstairs. Sit, Caroline said, gesturing to the couch.
You sit.
We've made a decision, Dad said. We think it's best if you spend some time away from the house. Give everyone some space to cool down. Away where? Your Aunt Linda's. In Michigan. For a few weeks. Aunt Linda. My mother's sister. I'd met her maybe 3 times in my life. She lived 6 hours away and had her own family, a husband, 2 young kids. We barely knew each other. Why would she want me there?
She's family, Dad said.
She's willing to help. When? This weekend.
4 days from now.
What about my summer reading for school? My books are here. You can do your summer reading at Linda's. What if? This isn't a negotiation, Caroline said. You need space. We need space. This is what's happening. I looked at Dad, waiting for him to acknowledge how insane this was. To recognize that they were shipping me off to a stranger's house because Caroline was paranoid about a text message I hadn't even read. He didn't. Go pack, he said. I went upstairs, sat on my bed, tried to process what was happening.
They were sending me away.
Actually sending me away. And there was nothing I could do about it. I didn't pack that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, running through scenarios. Maybe Michigan wouldn't be so bad. Maybe Aunt Linda would be kind. Maybe being away from Caroline would let me breathe for the first time in years. Or maybe this was the beginning of them erasing me entirely. The next few days were tense and strange. Caroline avoided me completely. Dad was polite but distant. I moved through the house like a ghost, already gone. Friday morning, Dad told me there'd been a change of plans. Linda called. One of her kids is sick. She doesn't think it's a good time for you to visit after all.
So, I'm not going?
You're still going, but we'll figure out somewhere else. Maybe a camp or something. There aren't any camps that have openings in July. Then you'll stay with a friend. I don't have friends. The words came out flat and honest, and Dad flinched slightly. We'll figure something out, he said. But they didn't figure anything out. The weekend passed. Then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I stayed in my room mostly, emerging only for meals that were silent and awkward. Caroline and Dad talked around me, through me, never to me. Thursday afternoon, everything changed. Vanessa called. Caroline answered, and I could hear her voice shift into that warm, maternal tone she used for my sister. They talked for maybe 20 minutes. Then Caroline came upstairs and knocked on my door. Vanessa wants to talk to you, she said, holding out the phone. I took it. Hello. Hey. Vanessa's voice was tight, controlled. Caroline told me what's been going on. What did she tell you? That you've been having a really hard time. That you've been acting out, being destructive, invading privacy.
That they're worried about you.
That's not what happened. She also said you've been accusing her of things. Making up stories. I haven't made up anything. Look, I'm not going to get in the middle of this. But I think you need to take some responsibility here. Dad and Caroline have been incredibly patient with you, and you're not making it easy. You have no idea what it's been like here. I know you've been struggling. I know you're on medication. I know you've been in therapy. At some point you have to accept that maybe the problem isn't everyone else. The words hit like a physical blow. Vanessa believed them.
Completely.
My own sister had chosen their narrative over any possibility that I might be telling the truth. Is there anything else? I asked, my voice flat. I just want you to know that I love you. We all love you, but you have to help yourself. No one can do it for you. Okay. I'll talk to you later. She hung up. I handed the phone back to Caroline, who was standing in the doorway watching me with that cold, satisfied expression. Vanessa's very worried about you, she said. I didn't respond. She thinks maybe you need more intensive help than we can provide here. I don't need help. I need you to stop lying about me.
See?
That right there. That's the problem. You can't accept any responsibility. Everything is always someone else's fault. Because it is your fault. You've been systematically destroying my relationship with my family for years. You've been manipulating everyone, lying about me, turning them against me. I never said it that directly before. Never laid it out that clearly. Caroline's eyes widened slightly, then narrowed. Your father needs to hear this, she said and left. My heart was pounding.
I done it now.
Said the thing you're not supposed to say, made the accusation you can't take back. Dad came home from work an hour later. Caroline met him at the door, and they went straight to the bedroom. I could hear her voice, high and urgent, and his lower responses. Then they came to my room. Caroline says you accused her of sabotaging your relationships, Dad said. Yes. That's a serious accusation. It's true. Do you have any proof?
Proof.
What proof could I possibly have? The journal she'd stolen? The things she said when no one else was around? The subtle ways she'd poisoned everyone against me?
No.
But then you're making it up. I'm not making it up. Ask Dr. Morrison. Ask Mrs. Harper. Ask anyone who actually pays attention. We've talked to all your teachers, all your therapists.
Everyone is concerned about you.
No one has suggested that Caroline is the problem. Because she's careful. She only does things when no one's watching. She's been. Enough, Caroline said, her voice shaking. Actual tears in her eyes now. Perfectly timed. I have tried so hard. I have been patient and supportive and loving, and this is what I get. Accusations. Conspiracy theories. I can't do this anymore. She left the room. Dad watched her go, then turned back to me. I don't know what's happening with you, but this has to stop. Dad, please. Just listen. I've been listening. For years. And all I hear are excuses and blame and refusal to take any responsibility for your behavior. What behavior? What have I actually done? You've been disrespectful. You've been destructive. You've been manipulative. According to Caroline. According to everyone. Your teachers, your therapists, your sister. Are they all lying too? I didn't have an answer. Because he was right in a way. Caroline had been so thorough, so careful, that everyone believed her version of events. I was the difficult one. The troubled one. The one with the problem. I want you to apologize to Caroline, Dad said. For what? For the accusations. For your behavior. For making her life hell for the past 3 years. I haven't made her life hell. She's made mine hell. Apologize. Now. We stared at each other. This man who used to be my father, who used to know me, who used to defend me against anything. Now a stranger demanding I apologize for my own abuse. No, I said quietly. His face went hard. Then we have a problem. He left. I heard them talking downstairs, voices rising and falling. I heard Caroline crying. I heard Dad's voice, firm and decisive. Then silence. I waited. Around 10 p.m., Dad came back upstairs. Pack a bag, he said. You're leaving. Leaving where? I don't know yet. But you can't stay here tonight. Not after what you said to Caroline. She doesn't feel safe with you in the house. She doesn't feel safe? That's. Pack. Now. Dad, it's 10 o'clock at night. Where am I supposed to go? That's your problem. You made this choice. You chose to make serious accusations without proof. You chose to disrespect Caroline and refuse to apologize. Actions have consequences. You're kicking me out. I'm asking you to leave for the night. To give everyone space. You can come back tomorrow if you're ready to apologize and commit to changing your behavior. And if I'm not ready, then you need to figure out another arrangement. This was insane. Actually insane. He was kicking out his 16-year-old daughter at night because his wife had successfully convinced him I was the villain. I have nowhere to go, I said. You should have thought of that before. He left again. I sat on my bed, mind blank with shock. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. But it was. I pulled out a backpack and started packing mechanically. Clothes, toothbrush, phone charger, the remaining money for my birthday, my school ID, a jacket. My hands were shaking. I went downstairs. Caroline was in the living room, curled up on the couch, tissues in hand, playing the victim perfectly. Dad stood near the door, arms crossed. Where am I going? I asked one more time. Anywhere but here, Caroline said, her voice small and broken. Dad opened the door. Outside, the sky was dark and heavy. Storm clouds moving in. The air smelled like rain. Dad. Go. I stepped onto the porch. The door closed behind me. I stood there for a moment, backpack over my shoulder, trying to understand what had just happened. They'd actually done it. Actually kicked me out. Rain started to fall. Light at first, then heavier. I started walking. I didn't have a plan. Didn't have anywhere to go. The nearest anything was the high school, maybe 2 miles away. There was an overhang by the gym entrance where I could wait out the rain, maybe figure out what to do. The rain got worse. Within 10 minutes, I was soaked through. My shoes squelched with every step. The temperature was dropping fast. I kept walking. The streets were empty. Everyone was inside, safe and dry, and not kicked out by their own family. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Lightning flashed. I reached the school. The gym overhang was there, but it was shallow, barely providing any cover. I huddled against the wall, trying to get warm, but I was shaking too hard. My phone buzzed. A text from Dad. When you're ready to apologize, come home. I didn't respond. Another text. We love you. This is for your own good. I turned off my phone. The rain came down harder. The wind picked up. I was shivering violently now, my teeth chattering, my hands numb. I needed to find somewhere better. Somewhere warm and dry. But everything was closed. The school was locked. There were no all-night businesses in this area. No friends I could call. Nowhere to go. I left the overhang and kept walking, hoping to find something, anything. A gas station, a fast food place, somewhere with lights and people and heat. The storm intensified. Rain came down in sheets, visibility dropping to almost nothing. I could barely see where I was going. My clothes were plastered to my body, heavy and cold. My backpack weighed 1,000 pounds. I don't know how long I walked. Time became meaningless. There was just cold and wet and the mechanical movement of putting one foot in front of the other. At some point I realized I was lost. Nothing looked familiar. The streets all looked the same in the dark and rain. I tried to retrace my steps but couldn't figure out which direction I'd come from. Thunder cracked overhead, so loud it hurt. I kept walking. My legs were getting heavy. Each step took more effort than the last. I was so cold I couldn't feel my fingers anymore. My thoughts were getting fuzzy, slow. I should stop. I should find shelter. I should. My foot caught on something and I went down hard, hands scraping against pavement. I lay there for a moment, rain pounding on my back, trying to remember why I was supposed to get up. Get up. You have to get up. I pushed myself to my knees, then to my feet. Everything hurt. Everything was cold. Keep walking. Just keep walking. But I didn't know where I was walking to anymore. Didn't know which direction was forward or back or home. Home. That word didn't mean anything now. I stumbled into what I thought was a residential area. Houses with dark windows. Everyone asleep. Everyone safe. My legs gave out. I collapsed onto someone's lawn, the grass soaking and cold beneath me. I tried to get up again, but couldn't. My body wasn't responding right. This is bad, some distant part of my brain observed. This is very bad. But I was so tired. Too tired to be scared. Too tired to move. I'll just rest here for a minute. Just a minute. The rain kept falling. I closed my eyes. Somewhere far away, a dog was barking. Then nothing. I woke up to brightness and warmth and voices I didn't recognize. My eyes wouldn't focus properly. Everything was white and blurry. Something was beeping steadily nearby. My body felt heavy and distant, like it belonged to someone else. She's awake, a woman's voice said. Footsteps. A face appearing above me, middle-aged, kind, wearing scrubs. Hey there. You're in the hospital. You're safe. Can you tell me your name? I tried to speak, but my throat was raw. Nothing came out. It's okay, don't strain. Just rest. You're going to be okay. I closed my eyes again. When I woke the second time, my head was clearer. I was in a hospital room, that much was obvious. And 4 in my arm. Monitors attached to my chest. Heavy blankets piled on top of me. Through the window, daylight. Morning, maybe. Or afternoon. I had no idea what day it was. A nurse came in different from before. Younger, with bright purple scrubs. Welcome back, she said, checking the monitors. How are you feeling? Cold, I managed. My voice sounded wrong, scratchy and weak. That's normal. Your core temperature was pretty low when they brought you in. We've been warming you up slowly. You gave everyone quite a scare. What happened? You don't remember? Fragments came back.
Then,
walking.
falling.
Nothing after that. I was outside, I said. You were found on the Hendersons' lawn around 2 in the morning. Their dog wouldn't stop barking. Mr. Henderson went out to check and found you unconscious. You're very lucky he did. 2 in the morning. I've been out there for 4 hours. What day is it? Friday. You've been here since early this morning. About 12 hours now. Friday. I'd left home Thursday night. Lost an entire night to the storm and unconsciousness. Your father is here, the nurse said. He's been waiting. Do you want to see him? Everything in me wanted to say no, but I just nodded. She left. Came back a minute later with Dad trailing behind her. He looked terrible, unshaven, exhausted, his shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it. When he saw me awake, something in his face crumpled. Thank God, he said, coming to the bedside. I was so worried. When the hospital called, when they told me where you'd been found. He stopped, his voice breaking. I looked at him and felt nothing. No anger, no relief, no love. Just emptiness. The doctor wants to talk to both of us, he said. About what happened. About everything. Where's Caroline? Something flickered across his face.
Home.
She's not. She thought it would be better if I came alone. Of course she did. The nurse left. Dad sat in the chair beside the bed, not quite looking at me. I didn't know, he said quietly. I didn't know you'd. I thought you'd go to a friend's house. Or call someone. I never thought you'd just walk around in the storm all night. I had nowhere to go. I told you that. I know. I know. I wasn't thinking clearly. Caroline was so upset, and I thought if we just had one night of space, we could all calm down and talk rationally in the morning. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen. I know. He put his head in his hands.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. The apology felt hollow. Too late. Too small for what had been done. A knock on the door. A woman in a white coat entered, followed by someone in business casual carrying a folder. The doctor and someone else. Someone official. Hi, the doctor said.
I'm Dr. Martinez.
This is Sarah Chun from Child Protective Services. We need to ask you some questions if you're feeling up to it. My heart rate picked up. The monitor beeped faster. Dad's head snapped up. CPS? Why is CPS here? Mr. Donovan, when a minor is brought to the hospital with hypothermia after being found unconscious outside during a severe storm, we're required to investigate the circumstances, Sarah Chun said, her voice calm and professional. This was a misunderstanding. A family dispute that got out of hand. We'd like to hear what happened from your daughter, please. Dr. Martinez moved to my other side, checking my vitals. You're doing well physically. No frostbite, no permanent damage. But your body went through significant trauma. Do you feel well enough to talk? I nodded. Sarah pulled up another chair. She had a kind face, patient eyes. The kind of person who'd probably heard every story there was to hear and learned not to show surprise. Can you tell me what happened last night? Why you were outside in the storm? I looked at Dad. He was watching me, his expression pleading. Don't make this worse. Don't say things you can't take back. Keep the family together. I looked back at Sarah. My father told me to leave the house. That's not. Dad started. Mr. Donovan, please let her speak. He told me to pack a bag and leave because I'd made accusations against my stepmother and refused to apologize. He said I couldn't stay there that night. It was around 10 p.m. when he made me leave. You told her to leave? Sarah asked Dad, her tone carefully neutral. It was a cooling-off period. I thought she'd go somewhere safe. Where did you expect a 16-year-old to go at 10 o'clock at night? She has friends. I don't have friends, I said. I told him I had nowhere to go. He said that was my problem. Sarah wrote something in her folder. How long have you lived with your father and stepmother? My whole life. My mom died when I was 7. Caroline married my dad 2 years later. And when did problems start? I thought about how to answer that. When did they start? When did normal family dynamics shift into something else? Gradually. Over years. But it got worse after my sister left for college. That was about 2 years ago. What got worse? Everything. The criticism, the isolation, the lying. Caroline would tell my dad I'd done things I hadn't done. She'd go through my room, take my things, turn everyone against me. She made it so I was always the problem, always the difficult one. She's been struggling, Dad interjected. We've had her in therapy, on medication. We've tried everything. Did your daughter ask for therapy or medication? Sarah asked him. Well, no, but she clearly needed. Who decided she needed it? Silence. Caroline, I said. Caroline decided I needed therapy. Then she decided I needed medication. Then she told everyone I was depressed and troubled and acting out. But I wasn't. I was just trying to survive living with her. That's a serious accusation, Sarah said, but not dismissively. She was listening. Actually listening. I know. And I have no proof. She was careful. She only did things when no one else was around, or she'd twist situations so it looked like I was the problem. My dad believed her. My sister believed her. My teachers, my therapists, everyone believed her. I believe you, Sarah said quietly. The words hung in the air.
Ich zerrte her.
You do. I've been doing this job for 15 years. I know what parental alienation looks like. I know what systematic emotional abuse looks like. And I know what it looks like when a child has been gaslit into questioning their own reality. She turned to Dad. Mr. Donovan, I'm going to need to speak with your wife. This is ridiculous. Caroline has been nothing but patient and loving. Then she'll have no problem answering some questions.
Dr. Martinez stepped in.
For now, I'd like to keep your daughter here for observation. At least through the weekend. Make sure there are no complications from the hypothermia and give everyone time to cool down. You can't just keep her here, Dad said. Actually, I can. She's a minor who is endangered, and I have concerns about her safety if she returns home right now. I would never hurt her. You told her to leave the house at night in a storm with nowhere to go. That's already hurt her. She could have died. The words seemed to hit him physically. He slumped in his chair. I didn't think.
No.
You didn't. Sarah stood. Mr. Donovan, I'll be in touch. We'll need to do a home visit, interview your wife and your older daughter. In the meantime, your younger daughter stays here where we know she's safe. She gave me a small, reassuring smile and left.
Dr. Martinez checked my phone one more time.
You should rest. You've been through a lot. If you need anything, just press the call button. She left too. Dad and I sat in silence. The monitors beeped. Outside, I could hear the muffled sounds of the hospital, voices, footsteps, distant announcements over an intercom. I didn't know it was that bad, Dad said finally. I swear to you, I didn't know. You didn't want to know. That's not fair. Isn't it? How many times did I try to tell you? How many times did I try to explain what was happening? And every single time, you chose to believe her instead of me.
She's my wife.
I trusted her judgment. I'm your daughter. You were supposed to protect me. His eyes filled with tears. Real ones, I thought. Not performative. Actually, devastated. I failed you, he said.
I see that now.
I failed you completely. The apology should have meant something. Should have felt like relief or vindication. But it just felt empty. Too late. The damage was already done. What happens now? I asked. I don't know. CPS will investigate. They'll talk to Caroline, to Vanessa, to your teachers. They'll determine if you can come home safely. I don't want to come home. The words came out flat and certain. Dad flinched. Don't say that.
We can fix this.
We can go to family therapy together, real therapy, and work through everything. There's nothing to work through. Caroline spent years systematically destroying me, and you let her. You enabled her. You chose her over me again and again. Why would I come back to that? Because I'm your father. Because I love you. Because family. We're not a family. We haven't been a family in years. He was crying openly now.
Please.
Please don't give up on us. I know I made mistakes, but I can fix this. I can make this right. I was so tired. Too tired to be angry. Too tired to feel sorry for him. Too tired for any of it. You should go, I said. I want to stay. I want to be here with you. I don't want you here. The words were cruel, but necessary. He needed to understand that his presence wasn't comforting. It was just another reminder of everything he'd failed to do. He stood slowly, moving like an old man. I'll come back tomorrow. We can talk more then.
I didn't respond. He left.
I lay in the hospital bed, warm and safe and completely alone, and finally let myself cry. Not dramatic, heaving sobs. Just quiet tears running down my face, releasing something I'd been holding in for years. The next few days were strange. A parade of people coming to talk to me. Social workers. A police officer. A different therapist, one who actually seemed interested in hearing my side of things. They all asked similar questions, took notes, assured me I was doing the right thing by being honest. Sarah came back Saturday afternoon. I've interviewed your stepmother, she said. And several of your teachers. And your previous therapists. What did they say? Caroline maintained that she's been trying to help you for years, that you're troubled and difficult and prone to making accusations. She was very convincing.
My heart sank. Of course she was.
But, Sarah continued, she was also very defensive. And some of the things she said didn't quite add up. She couldn't provide specific examples of your destructive behavior. She contradicted herself several times. And when I asked to see your room, your things, evidence of the problems she described, there wasn't any. There wouldn't be. I was never actually destructive. She just said I was.
I know.
I also talked to Mrs. Harper, your English teacher. She said you wrote a powerful essay about a child feeling invisible in their own family. She'd flagged it as concerning and mentioned it at parent-teacher conferences. Caroline told her she was overreacting. I remember that essay. Mrs. Harper kept a copy. She said she kept it because something about your situation worried her, but she didn't have enough concrete evidence to make a report. She gave me permission to include it in the case file. Something loosened in my chest. Someone had seen. Someone had paid attention. What happens now? Now we build a case. We document everything, the pattern of behavior, the systematic isolation, the emotional abuse, the endangerment. We present it to a judge. And we make sure you don't have to go back there unless you want to. I don't want to. Then you won't. We'll find you a safe placement. Maybe with a relative, maybe with a foster family. Somewhere you can finish school and start healing. What about Caroline? What happens to her? That depends. If we can prove child endangerment, there could be legal consequences. At minimum, she'll be prohibited from having unsupervised contact with minors. Your father might face consequences too. He didn't know, I said, surprising myself by defending him. Willful ignorance is still negligence. He had a responsibility to protect you. He failed that responsibility. She was right. But part of me still wanted to believe he'd been manipulated too, that he wasn't complicit, so much as blind. Your sister is flying in tomorrow, Sarah said. She wants to see you. I don't want to see her. That's your choice. But she sounded genuinely upset on the phone. I think she might be starting to understand what happened. I didn't respond. Vanessa had made her choice years ago. Sunday morning, against my better judgment, I agreed to see Vanessa. She came in looking pale and shaken. Derek wasn't with her. It was just her, standing in the doorway like she was afraid to come closer.
Hi, she said. Eat.
She sat down slowly. I talked to the social worker.
And to Dad.
And I read your English essay. Mrs. Harper sent me a copy. And I've been going through my memories of the last few years, really examining them, and her voice broke. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay. I didn't see it. I should have seen it. You tried to tell me, didn't you? There were signs. But I was so busy with my own life, and Caroline was so good to me, and I believed her version of things. I believed you were the problem. You did. I was wrong. I was so wrong. And I wasn't there for you when you needed me most. I'm your sister. I should have protected you. The words were right. The emotions seemed genuine. But something in me couldn't fully accept it. Where were you? I asked. All those times Caroline was tearing me apart. Where were you? At school. Focused on my own life. Being selfish. You were in high school, then college. I don't blame you for living your life. But I do blame you for not questioning what you were being told. For not checking in. For not seeing that I was disappearing right in front of you. I know. You're right. I have no excuse. We sat in silence. Can you forgive me? She asked. I don't know. Maybe eventually. But not right now. Right now I'm just trying to survive. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. Whatever you need. However I can help. I'm here now. I know that's not enough. But it's what I can offer. Thank you. She left after a few more minutes. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was something. A crack in the isolation. Monday, Dr. Martinez discharged me with instructions to take it easy and follow up with my regular doctor in a week. Sarah was there to take me to a temporary foster placement, a couple named the Rodriguezes who'd been fostering teenagers for over a decade. Dad was in the waiting room. He stood when he saw me. "Can we talk?" he asked. I looked at Sarah. She nodded. "I'll be right here, Dad," and I walked to a quiet corner. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he said. "About everything you said. About how I failed you. And you're right. About all of it." "Okay." I talked to a lawyer. About divorce. I'm leaving Caroline.
I stared at him. What?
I can't stay married to someone who hurt my daughter, who systematically abused my daughter while I was too blind to see it. I'm filing for divorce. Because of me? Because of what's right. Because I should have done this years ago. Because I need to show you that I'm choosing you now, even if it's too late. It is too late, I know, but I'm doing it anyway. Something shifted in my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet. But maybe the beginning of something. "What about the house?" I asked. "I'm moving out. Caroline can keep it or sell it, I don't care. I'm getting an apartment. A 2-bedroom. 1 room for me and 1 for you if you ever want it. No pressure. Just it's there. If you want it. I don't know if I can live with you. I understand. But the door is open. Whenever you're ready. If you're ever ready." Sarah appeared beside us. "We need to get going." I nodded. Looked at Dad one more time. "I'll stay in touch," he said. "If that's okay. Just texts or calls.
Let you know how things are going. No expectations.
Just so you know I'm trying." "Okay." He hugged me. I let him, but I didn't hug back. Then I left with Sarah to start whatever came next. The Rodriguez's house was small and warm and cluttered in a comfortable way. Maria and Tom were in their 50s, friendly without being overwhelming. They showed me my room, small but clean, with a window overlooking the backyard. "We have 3 other foster kids here right now," Maria explained. 2 boys, 1 girl. They're all pretty independent. House rules are simple: respect each other, clean up after yourself, curfew on school nights. We do family dinners most nights, but no pressure if you need space. "Okay. You've been through a lot. Take your time adjusting. Whatever you need, just ask." That first week was an exercise in learning how to exist in a normal household. No walking on eggshells. No monitoring every word for hidden meanings. No waiting for criticism or accusations. Just normalcy. It was disorienting. Maria noticed. She pulled me aside Thursday evening while I was helping with dishes. "You're waiting for the other shoe to drop," she said. "What?" "You're waiting for me to turn mean.
To start criticizing.
To show my real face. I can see it in how you move through the house, like you're ready to bolt at any second."
I didn't know what to say.
"It's okay. Most kids who've been through what you have do the same thing. But I want you to know, there's no other shoe. This is it. We're consistent here. What you see is what you get." "Okay. I mean it. You're safe here." I wanted to believe her. Over the next few weeks, things started stabilizing. Sarah updated me on the investigation. They'd found enough evidence of emotional abuse and endangerment to move forward with legal action. Caroline was facing potential charges. Dad had indeed filed for divorce and moved into his own apartment. Vanessa called weekly. Brief conversations where she checked in, asked how I was doing, didn't push for more than I could give. It was something. School started in late August. Junior year, 2nd attempt. I enrolled in the local high school, started fresh where no one knew my history. It was easier than I expected. No one looked at me like I was troubled or difficult. I was just another student. I made a friend, Jasmine, who sat next to me in chemistry and shared her notes when I zoned out. We started eating lunch together. She didn't ask about my past, and I didn't volunteer it. It was nice. My grades improved. Turned out I could actually focus on schoolwork when I wasn't spending all my energy navigating emotional warfare at home. I got A's in classes I'd been getting C's in before. Mrs. Harper had transferred to my new school that year, a coincidence that felt like fate. When she saw me in the hallway, she smiled and pulled me aside. "I'm glad you're okay," she said. "I've been worried about you. Thank you for keeping that essay, for noticing. I wish I'd done more sooner. You did enough." Therapy helped. Real therapy, with someone who wasn't getting their information filtered through Caroline. Dr. Banks specialized in trauma and family dysfunction. She helped me understand that what happened wasn't my fault, that I wasn't crazy or difficult, that my perceptions had been accurate all along. "You survived," she said one session. "You survived years of systematic emotional abuse and gaslighting. That takes incredible strength. I don't feel strong. You're here. You're functioning. You're healing. That's strength." The legal case moved slowly. Caroline had gotten a good lawyer who was arguing everything was a misunderstanding, that I was a troubled teenager who distorted reality. But the evidence was mounting: testimony from teachers, the pattern of behavior documented by CPS, my medical records from the hypothermia incident. In November, there was a hearing. I had to testify. Caroline was there, looking polished and sympathetic. Dad was there, looking hollowed out. Vanessa came to support me, sitting in the back of the courtroom. I told the truth. Simply, clearly, without embellishment. What had happened, how it had felt, why I'd ended up walking in a storm with nowhere to go. Caroline's lawyer tried to discredit me, pointed to my therapy records, my medication history, suggested I was unreliable. But Sarah had done her homework. She presented the essay, the teacher reports, the contradictions in Caroline's statements. The judge took 2 weeks to make a decision. When the ruling came down, it was thorough. Caroline was found guilty of child endangerment and emotional abuse. She was sentenced to probation, mandatory counseling, and prohibited from unsupervised contact with minors. Not jail time, but consequences. Real consequences. Dad was found negligent, but not criminally liable. He lost nothing legally, but everything that mattered. I felt relief. Mostly. Vindication. Proof that I hadn't made it up, that it had been real, that I wasn't crazy. Christmas that year was quiet. I spent it with the Rodriguezes. Maria made too much food. Tom told bad jokes. The other foster kids and I exchanged small gifts. It was simple and warm and nothing like the performances of family I'd grown up with. Dad texted. Asked if he could see me. I said maybe after the holidays. Vanessa sent a package. A book I'd mentioned wanting months ago and a long letter. I read it twice. It was honest and raw and showed she'd been doing her own work in therapy. I texted back. Thank you. Still working on things, but I appreciate this. Spring semester started. I was actually looking forward to it. School had become something I enjoyed rather than just endured. I joined art club again. Mrs. Chin had transferred to this school too, and was thrilled to see me. I knew you had it in you, she said, looking at a charcoal drawing I'd done. I always knew. In March, I agreed to meet Dad for coffee. Neutral ground, Sarah's suggestion. He looked different, older, but also somehow lighter. The weight of living a lie had lifted. How are you? He asked. Better.
Good, actually. I'm blah.
He hesitated. I've been in therapy too, trying to understand how I let things get so bad, how I chose to not see what was happening. And I don't have a good answer. Fear, maybe, of disrupting my life, of being alone, of admitting I'd made a terrible mistake marrying Caroline. But none of that is an excuse for failing you.
No.
It's not. I know. I just want you to know I'm trying. To be better. To be the father I should have been. We talked for an hour. It was awkward and painful and necessary. Not healing, not yet. But a step. When we left, he asked if we could do it again sometime. Maybe, I said. We'll see. The rest of junior year passed. I finished with a 3.6 GPA, the best I'd ever done. The Rodriguezes threw me a small celebration dinner. Maria cried and said she was proud of me. It felt genuine. Summer came. I got a part-time job at a bookstore. Saved money. Started thinking about college, about future, about life beyond just surviving. Sarah checked in one last time in July. How are you doing? She asked. Good. Really good, actually.
I'm blah.
You've come a long way. Thank you. For believing me. For helping me. That's my job. But you did the hard part. You survived. And now you're building something new. Senior year started. My last year of high school. I'd stayed with the Rodriguezes, who'd made it clear I was welcome as long as I needed. I was thinking about colleges far away. Fresh starts. New beginnings. Vanessa and I had rebuilt something fragile but real. She came to visit once a month. We'd have dinner, talk about safe things, school, her job, movies, books. Slowly, carefully, we were becoming sisters again. Dad and I met for coffee every few weeks. The conversations were getting easier. He'd fully divorced Caroline, who'd moved out of state to avoid the social fallout. He was seeing his own therapist, doing his own work. He'd never be the father he should have been, but he was trying to be something better than what he was. It wasn't perfect.
I still had nightmares sometimes.
Still flinched at certain tones of voice. Still struggled to trust people completely. Dr. Banks said that was normal, that trauma leaves marks, but they fade with time and work. I was healing. Actually healing. And then one day in October of my senior year, I got a letter. From Caroline. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. My name and the Rodriguez's address in her handwriting. Neat, controlled, exactly as I remembered. No return address. Postmarked from somewhere in Arizona. Maria noticed me holding it at the kitchen table. "You okay?" she asked. "It's from Caroline. Do you want to open it?" "I don't know." "You don't have to. You could throw it away right now and never think about it again." That was true. I could. But some part of me needed to know what she'd say. What possible words she thought could matter now. I opened it. The letter was 2 pages, handwritten on plain white paper. Her handwriting was as precise as ever. "Dear, I've started this letter a dozen times and thrown it away each time because I don't know what to say that would matter. I don't know if anything I say will matter. But my therapist says I need to try, so here I am, trying. I want you to know that I understand now what I did to you. Not all at once. It's taken months of therapy and honest examination of my behavior to see it clearly. But I see it now. I see how I treated you. How I isolated you. How I manipulated situations to make you look like the problem when you weren't. How I made your father choose me over you again and again. I could explain why. I could tell you about my own childhood, my own stepmother, my own feelings of inadequacy and fear of being replaced. I could tell you that I saw you as a threat to my relationship with your father, that I was terrified of losing him the way I'd lost my first husband. I could explain how it started small and snowballed until I couldn't see what I'd become. But explanations aren't excuses. Nothing excuses what I did. Nothing justifies the pain I caused you. You were a child. My husband's child. You deserved protection and love and stability. Instead, I gave you criticism and isolation and fear. I took away your support system piece by piece until you had no one. I made you question your own sanity. I put you in danger.
I could have killed you that night.
When your father told you to leave, when I let him, when I stood there feeling righteous and vindicated, you could have died. That reality sits with me every day. I almost killed a 16-year-old girl because I was too proud and too committed to my narrative to see what was actually happening. I'm not writing this to ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve forgiveness. I'm writing this because you deserve to know that what happened was real. That your perceptions were accurate. That you weren't crazy or difficult or the problem. I was the problem.
All of it was me.
You survived despite me. You're strong despite me. Whatever you become, whatever you accomplish, it will be despite everything I tried to make you believe about yourself. I hope you're healing. I hope you're in a place where you feel safe and valued. I hope you're with people who see you clearly and love you for who you are. I won't contact you again. This is the only letter. I just needed you to know that I know. I know what I did.
I know what I am. And I'm sorry.
Truly, deeply sorry, even though those words are inadequate. Take care of yourself. Caroline. I read it twice. Then a third time. Maria had stayed in the kitchen, giving me space but remaining present. "What does it say?" she asked gently.
She apologizes.
Says she understands what she did. Takes responsibility. How do you feel about that? I thought about it. Tried to locate the emotion underneath the shock. I don't know. It's what I wanted to hear for years. But now that I'm reading it, It just feels empty. Like words on paper that don't change anything. That's fair. Part of me wants to feel something. Relief or anger or satisfaction. But I just feel nothing. That's okay too. You don't owe her any particular reaction. I folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. I think I'm going to keep it. Not for her. For me. As proof that I was right. That it really happened the way I remember. That makes sense. I put the letter in my desk drawer and went back to my homework. Life continued. I told Dr. Banks about the letter in our next session. How did it feel to read it? She asked. Anticlimactic. I spent so long wanting someone to acknowledge what happened. Now that she has, it doesn't fix anything. Acknowledgement doesn't erase trauma. It can't give you back the years she took. But it can be a form of closure. Is it though? It feels more like an opening. Like now I have to decide what to do with it. What do you want to do with it? Nothing. I want it to not matter. But it does matter.
Yeah,
it does.
We sat with that for a while.
You know what's strange? I said. I actually believe her. I think she does understand what she did. I think she is sorry. But that doesn't make me want to forgive her or have any relationship with her. Does that make me cruel?
No.
It makes you someone with healthy boundaries. Forgiveness isn't mandatory. Understanding someone's motivations doesn't obligate you to reconcile with them. Good. Because I have no interest in ever seeing her again. That's completely reasonable. I never responded to the letter. Let it sit in my drawer as evidence and nothing more. Caroline didn't reach out again.
She kept her word about that, at least.
Senior year progressed. College applications went out, mostly to schools far from home. California, Oregon, New York. Places where I could start completely fresh, where no one would know my history. Dad and I continued our careful rebuilding. He came to my bookstore job, once to see where I worked. Met Maria and Tom, thanked them awkwardly for taking care of me. They were polite but cool. They knew what he'd allowed to happen. In December, Vanessa invited me to her wedding. Small ceremony, just family and close friends. Derek's family would be there. Dad would be there. I would be the only person representing our mother's side. You don't have to come, Vanessa said. I'll understand if it's too much. I want to come, I said, surprising myself. If you want me there. Of course I want you there. You're my sister. The wedding was in January, scheduled for what would have been our mother's birthday. A deliberate choice, Vanessa said. A way to honor her. I went dress shopping with Vanessa and Maria. It was strange and nice. Vanessa asked my opinion, valued my input, treated me like someone whose presence mattered. We were tentatively becoming something real again. The wedding was beautiful. Small venue, 50 guests, simple decorations. Vanessa looked radiant. Derek looked nervous and happy. Dad walked her down the aisle and cried through the whole ceremony. I sat in the front row, watching my sister marry someone who clearly loved her and felt a complicated mix of happiness and grief. Happy for her, for the life she was building. Grieving for the relationship we'd lost, the years we'd missed, the sister I'd needed who hadn't been there. At the reception, Vanessa pulled me aside. Thank you for coming. It means everything that you're here. I'm glad I came. I know we're still working on things. But I want you to know that you're important to me. You matter. I'm sorry it took me so long to show that. I know. She hugged me. I hugged her back. It felt real this time. Dad approached me later, drink in hand, but not drunk. Just loose enough to be honest. Your mother would be so proud of both of you, he said. Would she? She would. Vanessa, for building this life. You for surviving what you survived. Do you think about her? Mom. Every day. Especially lately. I think about what she'd say if she knew what I'd let happen to you. How disappointed she'd be. Probably pretty disappointed. I failed her. I failed both her daughters. I know saying sorry doesn't fix that. But I am sorry. I'll spend the rest of my life being sorry. I know, Dad. We stood in silence, watching Vanessa dance with Derek, watching a family celebration that we were both peripheral to now. Are we ever going to be okay? He asked. You and me? I don't know. Maybe. We're working towards something. That's more than we had. That's fair. The wedding ended. Life continued. I got acceptance letters from several schools. Chose one in Oregon, far enough to feel like an escape, close enough that I could visit if I wanted to. Full scholarship. Chance to start over completely. Maria cried when I told her.
We're so proud of you, she said.
You've come so far. I couldn't have done it without you. Without this place. You gave me space to heal. You did the healing. We just provided the space. Tom gave me a hug, which was rare and therefore meaningful. You're always welcome back here. This is your home as long as you need it. Thank you. Spring of senior year was bittersweet. Last few months of high school. Last few months of this liminal space between the trauma and whatever came next. I was ready to move forward, but also scared of what that meant. Jasmine and I made plans to stay in touch. She was going to school in California. Different states, but not too far. We promised to visit. Mrs. Harper wrote me a recommendation letter that made me cry. In it, she mentioned the essay I'd written sophomore year, how it had concerned her then and made her proud now to see how far I'd come. Mrs. Chin gave me a set of charcoal pencils and a sketchbook.
Keep drawing, she said.
Keep telling your truth. Graduation came in June. I walked across the stage to receive my diploma, heard my name called, heard Maria and Tom cheering from the audience. Dad was there too, sitting a few rows back. Vanessa had driven in for it, brought Derek. After the ceremony, we took photos. Me and the Rodriguezes. Me and Jasmine. Me and my family, Dad, Vanessa, Derek. Awkward, but present. I'm proud of you, Dad said, hugging me.
So proud.
Thanks. Will you let me know how you're doing? Once you're at school?
Yeah.
I'll text. That's all I ask. Summer passed quickly. I worked at the bookstore, saved money, prepared for college, packed my things, which wasn't much. I'd learned to live light, to not get attached to possessions. August arrived. Time to leave. The Rodriguezes drove me to Oregon. Helped me move into my dorm, met my roommate, made sure I was settled. Maria cried again. Tom tried not to. You've got this, Maria said. You're going to do amazing things. I hope so. We know so. They left. I was alone in a new place, new state, new life stretching ahead of me. My roommate, Alex, was friendly and normal and didn't ask probing questions about my past. We got along easily. Made friends with people down the hall. Went to orientation events. Started classes. College was everything high school hadn't been. Freedom. Possibility. No one watching my every move. No one waiting for me to fail. Just space to be myself, whoever that was. I declared a psychology major. Wanted to understand what had happened to me from an academic perspective. Wanted maybe to help other kids who'd been through similar things. Dr. Banks thought it was a good idea. Just make sure you're doing it for yourself, she said in one of our last sessions before I left. Not to fix your past or prove something. I think I'm doing it for both. And that's okay. It is. I called Dad once a week. Brief check-ins. How's school? How's work? How's the weather? Surface level but consistent. It was what we could handle. Vanessa and I texted more frequently. She sent me care packages. Visited once first semester. We were building something that might eventually be an actual sisterly relationship. Caroline never contacted me again. I heard through Dad that she was still in Arizona, still in therapy, had gotten a job working with elderly care. Far from children. Appropriate. I didn't think about her much anymore. She'd taken up so much space in my head for so many years. Now she was just someone who'd hurt me. Someone I'd survived. Not the central figure of my story anymore. Thanksgiving break, I went back to visit the Rodriguezes. They'd fostered 2 new kids since I left. The house was full and warm and chaotic. It felt like home in a way my actual home never had. How's college? Maria asked over dinner.
Good.
Really good. I like my classes. I like my roommate. I'm actually happy. You deserve to be happy. I'm starting to believe that. Christmas, I split time between the Rodriguez's and Dad's apartment. It was awkward at Dad's, just the two of us, trying to figure out how to be father and daughter again. But we managed. Watched movies. Played cards. Had conversations that didn't feel like walking through a minefield. On Christmas Eve, he gave me a photo album he'd put together. Pictures of me and Mom.
Me as a baby.
Me and Vanessa as kids. Mom at the hospital after I was born. Mom teaching me to ride a bike. Mom at my 7th birthday party, the last one before she got sick. I thought you should have these, he said. She loved you so much. I want you to remember that. Whatever else happened, whatever I failed to do, she loved you completely. I looked through the album, tears streaming down my face. Not sad tears. Grateful tears. Evidence that I'd been loved once. Purely and completely.
Thank you, I said.
I'm sorry I let you forget that. That I let Caroline make you feel like you were unlovable. You were never unlovable. You've always been worthy of love. I'm starting to believe that too. Spring semester, things continued improving. My grades were good. I joined a peer support group on campus. Made more friends. Started dating someone cautiously, carefully, but it felt healthy. Normal. Dr. Banks and I transitioned to monthly video sessions. I didn't need weekly therapy anymore. I was functioning well. Still processing, still healing, but stable. You've done remarkable work, she said in one session. It doesn't feel remarkable. It just feels like living. That's growth. When surviving becomes living. When you stop just getting through days and start actually experiencing them. Yeah, I guess that's where I am now. I'm proud of you. Thank you.
For everything.
For helping me see that I wasn't crazy. You were never crazy.
You were traumatized.
There's a difference. Summer after freshman year, I got an internship at a youth crisis center. Answering hotlines, connecting kids with resources, being the voice on the other end that said, I believe you, I hear you, you're not alone. It was hard work. Emotionally draining. But also the most meaningful thing I'd ever done. One night, I talked to a 16-year-old girl who was considering running away because her stepfather was making her home unbearable. I listened to her story, the slow erosion of safety, the gaslighting, the isolation. My story, with different names and details. Does it get better? She asked. Yeah, it does. Not easily, not quickly. But it gets better. You get out. You heal. You build a life that's actually yours. How do you know? Because I've been where you are. And I made it through. You will too. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet office and cried. Not from sadness. From knowing that my story could help someone else survive theirs. Sophomore year started. I was elected to lead the peer support group. Took classes on trauma and child development. Wrote papers about parental alienation and emotional abuse. Turned my experience into knowledge that could help others. Dad and I had settled into a comfortable distance. We talked regularly, but didn't see each other often. He was rebuilding his own life, had started dating someone new, someone kind who seemed genuinely good. I was happy for him. Vanessa got pregnant that fall. Called me excited and nervous. Asked if I'd be an aunt or baby. I said yes, without hesitation. Are you sure? She asked. I know we're still. I'm sure. We're not perfect, but we're family. That matters. It does. Her daughter was born in March of my sophomore year.
Lily.
Small and perfect and completely innocent. I held her in the hospital and felt something crack open in my chest. Love. Fierce and protective and unconditional. She's beautiful, I told Vanessa.
She is.
I'm terrified I'm going to screw this up. You won't. You're going to be great. How do you know?
Because you learned from our past.
Because you're aware. Because you're trying. That's all anyone can do. Watching Vanessa with Lily, I saw something I'd never seen before. Her as a mother, protective and gentle and completely devoted. It didn't erase our history, but it added a new dimension to who she was. Junior year, I declared a minor in social work. Started planning for grad school. Wanted to specialize in child welfare, in helping kids navigate broken family systems. Mrs. Harper reached out that fall. She'd heard about my career path through the school grapevine and wanted to congratulate me. "I always knew you'd do something important," she wrote. "Your strength has been evident from the beginning." I thanked her, told her she'd been part of what saved me, that keeping that essay and noticing what others missed had made a difference. "Sometimes the smallest acts of attention matter most," she wrote back. Senior year arrived faster than I expected. Time to think about what came next. I applied to graduate programs in social work. Got accepted to several. Chose one with a strong focus on trauma-informed care. Dad came to visit that spring. We had dinner at a restaurant near campus, just the two of us. "I can't believe you're graduating," he said. "Feels like just yesterday you were 16 and," he stopped, unable to finish the sentence. "And almost died because you kicked me out in a storm?" He flinched. "Yeah, that. It's okay to say it. It happened. We can acknowledge it. I know. I hate that I did that. I hate what I put you through. I know. But I survived it. I'm here. We're having dinner. That's something. It's everything. We'd never be what we were before." That father-daughter relationship was gone, broken beyond repair. But we'd built something new. Fragile, imperfect, but real. It would have to be enough. Graduation came in May. I walked across the stage again, bachelor's degree in psychology, ready for the next chapter. The Rodriguezes came. Dad came. Vanessa came with Derek and baby Lily. We took photos together. A family of sorts, pieced together from broken parts but whole enough. That summer, before grad school started, I did something I'd been avoiding for 4 years. I went back to the old neighborhood. Drove past the house where everything happened. It looked smaller than I remembered. Caroline was long gone. Dad had sold it after the divorce. A new family lived there now. I could see a swing set in the backyard, kids' bikes on the driveway. I drove past the high school, past the library where I'd spent so many hours hiding, past the spot where Mr. Henderson had found me unconscious on his lawn. I pulled over there, got out of the car, stood on the sidewalk looking at the house, the lawn, the place where I'd almost died. It was just a lawn, just grass and earth, and a memory that had lost its power over me. I wasn't that girl anymore. I was someone new, someone who'd survived and healed and built a life worth living. I got back in my car and drove away. Didn't look back. Grad school was intense but fulfilling. 2 years of rigorous coursework and field placements. I worked with kids in foster care, with families in crisis, with systems that were broken but trying. I kept in touch with everyone. Dad and his girlfriend got engaged. Vanessa had a second baby. The Rodriguezes retired from fostering but stayed close. Dr. Banks sent occasional check-ins. I dated. Nothing serious until my second year of grad school when I met Jordan, kind, patient, someone who didn't run when I told them my history. We took it slow, built trust, learned each other. "You're stronger than you think you are," Jordan said once. "I'm just doing my best. That's what strength is." I graduated with my master's degree. Got a job at a nonprofit working with at-risk youth. Started building the career I'd dreamed about. Years passed. Life continued. I got promoted. Jordan and I moved in together. Dad's girlfriend became his wife, a woman named Susan who was genuinely kind and had no interest in replacing anyone. Vanessa's kids grew. I became the aunt who sent birthday presents and visited during holidays and was reliably present in small but consistent ways. I still saw Dr. Banks occasionally. Not therapy anymore. Just check-ins. Making sure I was staying balanced. "How are you?" she asked during one session. "Good. Really good. Happy, even." "That's wonderful. You've come so far." I have. It's strange sometimes. Remembering who I was at 16. How small and terrified and convinced I'd never make it out. But you did. I did. What would you tell that 16-year-old if you could? I thought about it. That girl shivering in the rain. That girl who thought she had nowhere to go. That girl who almost didn't survive. I'd tell her to hold on. That it gets better. that she's stronger than she knows, that she deserves love and safety and happiness, that none of what happened was her fault, that she'll survive this and build something beautiful on the other side. That's a good message.
Yeah, it is.
5 years after college graduation, I was invited to speak at a conference about child welfare. I talked about my experience, not the sensational parts, the storm, the hospital, the dramatic rescue, but the quiet parts, the slow erosion of safety, the gaslighting, the isolation, how systems fail kids, how adults need to pay attention, how belief matters. After my talk, a woman approached me, older, professional, carrying herself with authority. That was powerful, she said. I'm a judge in family court. I see cases like yours constantly. Kids who are being systematically destroyed by people who are supposed to protect them. It's more common than people think. It is. And you're doing important work by speaking out.
We talked for a while.
She gave me her card. If you ever want to consult on cases, give me a call. We need more people who understand this from the inside.
I started consulting,
Helping courts understand what emotional abuse looks like. Advocating for kids who couldn't advocate for themselves. Using my experience to make systems better. It felt full circle. The girl who'd been failed by so many adults was now helping adults not fail other kids. 7 years after that night in the storm, Dad asked if we could have a serious conversation. We met at a park, walked along a trail, just talking. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, he said. About my role in it. And I realize I've never fully taken responsibility. I've apologized, yes. But I haven't really owned what I did. Okay. I chose Caroline over you. Again and again. Even when you were telling me something was wrong, even when teachers and therapists were expressing concern, I chose to believe her version of reality because it was easier. Because it didn't require me to examine my own choices or admit I'd made a terrible mistake marrying her.
Yes.
That's accurate. I let my wife abuse my daughter because I was a coward. Because I was selfish. Because I prioritized my own comfort over your safety. I didn't respond. Let him sit with that truth. I don't expect you to forgive me, he continued. I don't know if I can ever forgive myself. But I want you to know that I see it clearly now. What I did. What I failed to do. And I'm sorry. Not a generic sorry. A specific sorry for each decision I made that hurt you. Thank you, I said quietly. That means something. Not everything, but something. That's more than I deserve. Maybe. But it's what I can give. We walked in silence for a while. Are you happy? He asked eventually. Yeah, I am. Most days. Good. That's all I can hope for. 10 years after it all fell apart, I was 32 years old. Living in the city. Working a job I loved. In a relationship that was healthy and real. Building a life that was entirely mine. Vanessa and I were genuinely close now. Her kids called me aunt regularly, asked when I was visiting, drew me pictures. Vanessa had done her own work, her own therapy, and become someone I could trust. Dad and I had settled into a relationship that was honest, if not deep. We knew each other's limitations.
Accepted them.
It wasn't what a father-daughter relationship should be, but it was something. Caroline was a distant memory. Someone who'd hurt me once. Someone I'd survived. Someone who had no power over me anymore. I thought about her sometimes. Wondered if she'd actually changed. If her apology had been genuine or performative. If she'd hurt other people the way she'd hurt me. If she thought about what she'd done on quiet nights. If she carried guilt or had rationalized it all away. But mostly I didn't think about her at all. My life was full of other things. Work that mattered. People I loved. A future that was bright and open and mine to shape. One evening, sitting on my balcony watching the sunset, Jordan beside me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years.
Peace.
Not the absence of pain. The scars were still there, would always be there. But peace with who I'd become. Pride in what I'd survived. Gratitude for the people who'd helped me. Hope for what came next. I was 16 when my father told me to leave during a thunderstorm, and I genuinely believed I wouldn't make it through the night. But I did make it through. And the life I built on the other side was worth every painful step it took to get here. That's the thing about survival. It's not just about making it out. It's about what you build after. How you transform pain into purpose. How you take the worst thing that ever happened to you and decide it won't define you. I survived. I healed. I built something beautiful. And that's how this story ends. Not with dramatic revenge or perfect reconciliation. Not with everyone getting what they deserve or neat resolutions. But with a woman sitting on a balcony, watching the sunset, feeling genuinely content with the life she'd fought so hard to create. With peace. With purpose. With hope. That's enough. That's everything. If you found value in this story, please subscribe and consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear that survival is possible, that there's life and happiness on the other side of trauma.